This is the story of a $20 part that cost $50,000. Not because it was rare, not because it failed by accident, but because somewhere in a design meeting, somebody decided it should be cheaper to replace your entire engine than to build that part the right way. The part is called a PCV valve, positive crankcase ventilation. It's smaller than your thumb. And if you're driving a Ford EcoBoost, a GM truck with the 5, 3L, or any modern direct injection turbo, this affects you. On the trucks that were built to last, the ones from the golden era that hit 300,000 miles without complaint, that valve was a solid piece of machined metal. It cost the manufacturer maybe $5, and it would outlive the truck. Then it became plastic. A little molded housing, a spring, a rubber diaphragm. And the day they made that swap, they didn't make your engine cheaper. They made it disposable. Here's what nobody at the dealership will tell you. Your engine is not a sealed box. While it runs, combustion gases, the same explosive pressure that drives your pistons, leak past the rings into the crankcase, the bottom of the engine where your oil lives. These are called blow-by gases, and they're unavoidable. Every engine makes them. A little fuel, a little water vapor, a lot of pressure, all building up underneath, looking for a way out. The PCV system is the way out. That little valve opens a controlled path, lets the pressure bleed off, and routes those gases back up into the intake to be burned again. When it works, you never think about it. You never even know it's there. It just quietly keeps the pressure balanced, day after day, year after year. Now picture that valve made of plastic. Picture the diaphragm, the thin rubber membrane that's supposed to flex open and closed thousands of times a minute, sitting in a hot engine bay, soaking in oil vapor and heat for years. Rubber doesn't like heat. Plastic doesn't like heat. The diaphragm stiffens, it hardens, and one day it stops moving. That's the moment. That's where the $20 part becomes a $50,000 problem. Because when that valve sticks, it doesn't just stop working. It starts a chain reaction, and every single link in that chain is more expensive than the last. Let me walk you through exactly what happens, step by step, the way it actually unfolds inside your engine. Because once you understand the sequence, you'll understand why this isn't a malfunction. It's a design. It begins with the valve sticking closed. The blow-by gases have nowhere to go, and the pressure in your crankcase, which is supposed to stay near zero, starts to climb. Slowly at first, then constantly. Your engine is now pressurizing itself from the inside, like a balloon you can't stop inflating. That pressure has to escape somewhere, and it will always find the weakest seal. In your engine, the weakest seals are the rubber gaskets and the crankshaft seals, the front main seal and rear main seal, the valve cover gasket, the ones that are an absolute nightmare to replace because the transmission or the timing cover sits right on top of them. The pressure pushes against them, it finds the edge, and it starts forcing oil out. You see a puddle in your driveway and you think, small leak, no big deal. It is not a small leak. It's your engine telling you the pressure regulation has failed. But here's the version that's even worse, and far more common with the stuck-open failure. The valve jams open the other way, and now instead of a controlled trickle, you've got a wide-open vacuum leak pulling raw oil mist straight out of the crankcase and dumping it into your intake. A $50 oil catch can could have intercepted this, but most trucks don't have one from the factory. That oil mist coats everything downstream, and on a modern direct injection engine, this is catastrophic. Here's why. Older engines sprayed fuel onto the back of the intake valves, and that fuel constantly washed them clean. Direct injection skips that. It sprays fuel straight into the cylinder, which means the back of those intake valves never gets washed. Nothing cleans them. So when your failed valve starts force-feeding oil vapor across those valves, it bakes on, layer after layer, carbon as hard as rock, building up until it chokes the airflow into your engine. You feel it as a misfire, a rough idle, loss of power that creeps in so slowly you almost don't notice, until the day it won't pass inspection. The only fix is walnut blasting to remove the carbon buildup. The oil that doesn't bake onto the valves goes into the combustion chamber and gets burned. Now you're burning oil. Your level drops. And here's the trap. Most drivers don't check their oil anymore, because the car never told them to. So the level falls, quart low, 2 quarts low, and the engine keeps running on less and less lubrication, the oil getting dirtier and more diluted with every mile. This is where the money lives. Low oil, contaminated oil thinned out by the fuel that bad ventilation let accumulate. That oil can no longer protect the bearings. The crankshaft rides on a film of oil thinner than a human hair, and when that film breaks down, metal touches metal, the bearings scar, the crankshaft scores. And the sound your engine makes when that happens, that deep rhythmic knock, is the sound of a repair bill with 5 figures on it. Now you're at the dealership, and this is the part that should make you angry. The technician hooks up the scanner, maybe sees a P171 lean code or a P507 high idle code, listens to the knock, and gives you a number. Engine replacement, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 depending on the platform. On a late model diesel, with labor and parts and the diagnostic runaround, that number climbs toward 50. Not once, not one single time, will anyone point at the $20 plastic valve that started all of it. Why would they? The valve isn't the profit, the engine is the profit. The valve is just the fuse they lit years ago and walked away from. This is what planned obsolescence actually looks like. It's not a conspiracy with a smoke-filled room. It's quieter than that. It's 1,000 small decisions, each one defensible on its own, that add up to a machine designed to die on schedule. A metal valve that lasts forever doesn't sell new trucks. A plastic valve that fails at 90,000 miles, right after the powertrain warranty expires, sells a lot of new trucks. Do the math. They already did. And the most insidious part is that the failure is invisible until it's terminal. There's no warning light for a stiffening diaphragm, no dashboard alert that says your crankcase pressure is climbing. By the time you have a symptom you can feel, the oil spots, the rough idle, the knock, the damage is already done. The chain reaction has already run its course. The $20 fix had a window, and that window closed while you were just driving to work. So here's what you actually do about it, because I'm not here just to make you afraid of your own truck. Know your engine. If you're running a direct injection motor, or any modern truck where the PCV valve is plastic, that part is a maintenance item, whether the manufacturer lists it as one or not. It's not lifetime. Nothing rubber and plastic sitting in a hot engine is lifetime. Replace it on a schedule. Every 60 to 80,000 miles is cheap insurance. $20 in 20 minutes against a $50,000 engine. That's the best trade in all of automotive ownership. Learn the symptoms before they become catastrophic. A whistling sound from the engine bay. Oil where there shouldn't be oil. Rough idle that comes and goes. Higher oil consumption than you used to see. Any one of these, on a truck with a plastic ventilation system, means you check that valve first, before you let anyone sell you a teardown. And here's the big one. When you're shopping for a truck, this is exactly the kind of weak point that separates the golden era machines from the disposable ones. The trucks that hit 300,000 miles weren't luckier. They were built with metal where it mattered, knowing which engines used a serviceable, robust ventilation system, and which ones buried a plastic time bomb deep enough that you'd never reach it without pulling the intake. That knowledge is the difference between buying an asset and buying a liability. A $20 part destroyed a $50,000 engine, but it didn't have to. It was allowed to. It was designed to. And the only defense you have against a system built to make your machine disposable is to understand it better than the people who built it that way. That little plastic valve is still out there, sitting in millions of engines, slowly hardening in the heat. The question isn't whether it'll fail. The question is whether you'll catch it for $20 or pay for it with everything else.